Hello everyone, Jesterel is back and happy Halloween. Today I have a video review for It, the 1990s TV movie. Now, I'm obviously doing this review in honor of Halloween, but I have never seen this movie before. I feel like I've seen like clips of it, images of it ever since I was little because everyone would always talk about it, but I have never seen this movie before and I haven't seen the new ones in full. So this is a completely brand new person coming in and their impressions of this movie. So hopefully that'll be entertaining for you. So it came on Hulu, and I have always, seen the movie in the background, and I've always loved the concept. I've just never watched it. So I always have loved the concept of you have a group of kids who fight a killer clown or something that's in the form of a killer clown. I just love that you pit kids against an evil clown. I like the dynamic that could bring with the kids, and the group dynamic, and kind of the sense of adventure, but also the terror. As you know, if any of you are familiar with the It franchise, I guess it's a franchise now. It's just become so popular. Halloween costumes everywhere for it. You know that the book is messed up, to say the least, and we won't get into that. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, though. But the positive thing about watching the 1990s movie is it's a PG movie on TV. It really kind of has to take out all the junk that you might get in the book, and the book is 1,400 pages long, so this movie like whittles it down a lot. But it's still a over 3 hour movie, I think. And watching this movie was a lot like reading a book, because I'd like watch a little bit on my break at work, and then I'd come back to it, and then I'd watch a little bit more, and it took me about a week, I think. I would just watch it in little chunks. So it was very much like reading a book, but at least for me, it was like reading a book you actually want to finish. Now, that said, I've said some things and some general things in praise of it. I feel like the It concept, despite being a concept I really like, has never really been mastered. So let's get into all the details of it. So what I was really entertained by and what really drew me in, because I didn't even know if I was going to finish the movie. I'm like, I'll just watch a little bit of the beginning. But what drew me in is I really liked the dynamic between the kids in the movie. I thought it was very well cast. I liked how we come and we see each person as an adult, and then we get to find out who they were as a kid and what their dynamic was in this group of kids and how they came together. And I found Tim Curry as It to be entertaining, and I liked seeing all the different ways that he would come and appear to the kids. So all of that was very good, and I love old horror movies. Anything that's pre-2000, it just has that raw, unfinished, unpolished look. It's kind of like walking into a thrift store where you find old things that are unpolished, kind of creepy. You have no idea where they came from. That's what it's like watching an old horror movie, and that's why I like watching older horror movies. These days, horror movies, they might have more gore, they might have more messed up stuff, but they are just so polished and with CGI and everything. They don't scare me. Like these original ones always have the kind of an unsettling feel, even if they're not very scary. And so let's get into the criticisms that I have a little bit. That it wasn't really scary, and some of that was it just never kind of went to those heights. Like in the beginning, the little girl is kind of the first victim, and you never see it, so you always know you're kind of safe in the movie. But what really killed it for me is whenever it comes up to one of the main kid characters, he kind of threatens them, does some stuff like he becomes a wolf man, or he comes through the ground, or what a part I really liked is he becomes the character of Ben, his father, and then he kind of gets Tim Curry's voice, and then he becomes a zombie. I really liked that part because I liked seeing the not the special effects, but the costumes and all that kind of stuff. But he never attacks the kid, and so I'm always just kind of, whenever it's a main character, I'm like, well, we're kind of safe here because I know he's never going to attack them, and that's a big problem for me with horror movies. I have to know the threat. I have to know the great threat that this creature poses, like Alien. You know what the creature can do. You know if you've come face to face with the creature that you're pretty much messed up. But not so with it. It was really frustrating because I'm like, I like this concept. I want to be scared, but it never goes there. The thing never really attacks. And people were defending it, saying that, oh, it is a creature who it's an alien creature who eats kids, and it feeds off of fear. So it's trying to make them more afraid. So it's essentially just fattening them up by scaring them and then not eating them. But then I'm like, okay, but why did it attack the little girl in the beginning and Georgie when they weren't nearly as afraid? And why did it take so long to attack the other kids? What I would like if it did, and maybe it did this more in the book. I'm never reading that book, but the idea that maybe some of the kids don't believe, and it's harder to scare them. It's harder to get them to believe. For example, with the character of Stan, his character, and I do like this about the movie, that each of the kids has an individual defined personality and a different place in the group and a different way that they kind of affect the group. Very defined personalities. I really like that. It was not just a glob of, nameless, personality-less dwarves who you can't even distinguish from each other. But Stan's whole character in the movie was that he is a realist and he's a Boy Scout, and so he's not going to believe any of this stuff very easily. And I think that it would work if you make it where you have a character like Stan who is the one who does not get attacked so easily because he doesn't believe in any of its illusions. And we do that a little bit, but it was weird because the movie didn't really focus on him and then jumped around throughout the movie. And I just think it would be better if you have those kind of things where the kids, or maybe a kid, isn't really believing in these illusions, so the illusions get stronger and stronger, more scary, until he starts to believe in them. And then that would make it even more darker and tragic that Stan, the person who didn't believe in this stuff and who wasn't being affected as much, is the first victim of it because it really got to him. So that's my criticism with the first half. I was really entertained by the kids. I was really entertained by the clown, even though it wasn't that scary. It was still interesting, and there was a big lore behind it, which I appreciate, just developing the world of this creature. We got to the second half, and I, of course, about 2 hours and an hour and a half, 2 hours into the movie, maybe, we got to the second half, and of course I was going to finish it because now I'd seen enough of the story. I had to finish it, but this half wasn't nearly as entertaining as the first. It was because we're dealing with mainly the adults at this point, and it was very well cast, but to have them just kind of lose each other and come back into town and kind of lost so much time and now kind of have to remember each other and what happened again, they kind of really lost the dynamic. And what I realized, the pacing got so much slower at this point, and what you realize when you get through to the end is when you get to the adults, and it's mainly just the adults, it's just so much of them talking and discussing it and how afraid they are to go after it rather than taking action. And when they finally do take action, it's like, well, that was easy. They spent the last half of the movie being threatened and discussing what to do in the midst of the threats. And that's what really slowed it down and made it far less entertaining. At this point, it got harder to follow the lore. So I get that it is a creature who eats children, feeds off of their fears, an alien creature who also casts illusions and is a part of the town in some way. But once again, I'm not really clear on, okay, why doesn't it just kill the adults? Doesn't it have the power to do that? I was always just confused on the threat level. When is it there and when is it not there? Does it not have the power to kill adults by itself? Why didn't it go and kill these people it feels threatened by in the first place? Why did it have to get someone else to do it? That was confusing to me. Also, the special effects with the creature at the end. I know I say I like things that are raw and unpolished, but I didn't think that worked as well. So a very long movie. I will say this is a positive thing for the pacing throughout the movie, is that you do see the main course, essentially. You see it pretty consistently and constantly throughout the movie. It's always doing another threat, another illusion, and that is probably what kept me interested even through the slower parts, the part where it wasn't as good, because you're constantly seeing it in some way and another illusion, another scary thing it's doing. A lot of horror movies, I have the criticism that they hold off on the creature. They have a lot of talking, a lot of pace you know, slow pace, a lot of build up, and then maybe you see the creature a little bit. This one kept it very consistent, and I think it's because they had to condense the book. So that I appreciated. I will say my favorite my favorite moment in the movie that scared me is I liked it when Stan went into the house and then there's the creature there that's coming after him. That was the one part in the movie that I think really started to scare me a bit, and I wish that it was just kind of weirdly placed in the movie. And that's, I know that they're taking from a book, but for the first half, it was like, okay, I get it that these are these adults and we're revisiting their life as kids to put the pieces together as they come back together. But then it seemed like we had gotten over that in the midpoint where we saw how they defeated it originally, and then it goes back to the adults, and then it just kind of randomly, sporadically goes to flashback in different pieces from that time as kids that would have informed the story a lot better before, like the story of Stan. I wasn't clear on the timeline of when he really started to believe in it or not, and so that was there's a problem with story flow. But I know I'm saying a lot of criticisms. I'd say this movie you can see like this mild unsettling factor. Nothing that really stuck with me other than the theme. I really like the theme. I hope I play it in this video. But that said, I understand why this movie is famous, because a lot of kids apparently watched this movie in the 80s or 90s. And if I was a kid watching this, I would be absolutely horrified. I wouldn't think about how the creature isn't really attacking the kids as much. That scene where he comes on through the shower, the shower floor, and there's like a clay animation to him doing it past, and then he comes out with his teeth. That would have horrified me so bad as a kid. But there are some movies that you see as a kid and you just think they're the scariest thing you've ever seen, but you come back as an adult and you're like, what was I scared of? So I understand why this is a classic. I think that it is a concept that has never been mastered. That said, I was still really entertained by it. It was an older horror movie. I liked Tim Curry a lot. I liked the kids. I liked the illusions it casts, and I liked that old-time special effected look to the movie. And I still like the idea of it, even if it hasn't been executed as well as I think it could be. So, what horror movies are you watching this Halloween? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will have more videos this October.